So I'm actually the bio mom. My husband's the stepdad.
Oh, okay. Wait, hold up. Let me do the intro first because not like two bio parents. But this is gonna be a good conversation. Welcome everybody. Welcome back to Black and Blended. Black to the Blending. How you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing good and you guys are ready for another segment on the Black and Blending. This time it's gonna be from two bio moms. So there's no step parents, it's just two biological moms just having conversations. And I know we're having a conversation and I know we have a lot in common. But yeah, before we continue, please do consider subscribing below, turning on the notification bell so that you are notified every time we post a video. All right. So let's allow our guest introduce herself.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hmm.
My name is Jamie Newton Knight, and I call myself the Motherhood Mastery Mentor and Blended and Co-Parenting Coach. And I help moms in blended families and co-parenting relationships take charge of their lives, balance their families, and co-parent with ease. And I have two pages, which is Blended Black Family and the Cooperative Co-Parenting Blend, or the Cocoa Blend.
Thank you for joining us today. So
Thank
just tell us a bit about your blending family.
So my family is blended in a couple different ways. So I have a daughter who's 26 years old. So I had her when I was my last year in high school.
Okay.
So her and her dad were to her and me and her dad were together briefly. So that relationship wasn't, what I consider, we didn't really have to co-parent. So there was no big deal because I lived in South Carolina, I had her there, and then I moved to New York to go to college. So we didn't really have a relationship. He wasn't bothered and I wasn't gonna bother him.
Okay.
Like if you want to be involved, you know how to find me.
Yeah.
And I would never stop him from being involved.
Okay.
But he chose not to at that time. Um, and so that was fine. I raised my daughter by myself, and of course, with the help of my family, because I have my mom here in New York.
Mm.
And I met my son's dad. And so when I met him, I was already a single mom. He had no children. We were together for about 6 or 7 years, engaged to be married, right? And 3 months before we were supposed to get married, I find out this man is cheating. So now I have his son and I have my daughter. And now I have to learn to co-parent with this individual
How old was your son?
too.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I have to learn to co-parent with this person who I'm like, I don't want to co-parent with you.
No.
Like we were supposed to be getting married,
Yeah,
and
you just did me dirty. Like, stay far
yeah,
away from me.
and now you want me to communicate with you nicely
No.
and be able to be in the same space. It was just not
So
happening.
did you guys live
So
together?
yes, we did.
Oh, okay. With your daughter and your son and him. Oh, okay.
Yes, yes. And so once that relationship ended, and trying to figure out how to co-parent without the animosity, the hostility, that was a journey within itself.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So that's how we are blended in the fact that now my daughter's father started to connect with her when she probably was about 6 years old. He
Oh,
finally came around and was like, okay, but he was still not really consistent. So she had him and didn't have him.
okay.
My son's dad was around, but he also was not very consistent either. Even though we were together for so long, once we broke up, it was like very inconsistent.
Mm.
And then, wow, after I think it was 4 years of being by myself, like literally, I'm like, I'm single. I'm not,
Yeah.
I met my husband, and now we have two children. So my husband is the stepdad of the children, and he had no children.
Oh,
So
wow.
he didn't have any children when I met him. And now we have the younger two. So I have four children in all.
Oh, okay.
So
So
I'm blended 3 times.
that's how much job.
Yeah.
So I just wanna ask a question. So when you before you had your son, right?
Hmm.
Blending, and how was that for your daughter? Was her dad involved at that time, or was he not involved?
He was not. He was very inconsistent. He would, he met her and he said, "Oh, I'm going to be involved." And just as quickly as he said it, it was kind of like here and then not. Um, Financially, he was involved because at that point I had to get, the state involved, which I had avoided for so long, trying to not go that route.
Yeah.
But I had to do it that way. And so he financially supported her. But in terms of really being an active parent, he wasn't. She saw my son's dad more as her dad because he was there for everything. Like he would go to her parent teacher conferences. He was the one who, would take her to the park. He was the one helping her with homework. So for many years, that's who she saw as her parent.
And how was it for her?
Yeah, so when that relationship ended for her, it was like very devastating because she lost, a parent. And they kind of, her and my son both were very, very clingy when that happened, because it was kind of like, what's going on around us? Why is he around
each other?
Yes. So we kind of clung to each other more. I kind of started to focus my attention more on them and me, and like trying to figure out how we're going to navigate this thing so that you can still have a relationship with him and I can try to co-parent with a little bit of ease,
Yeah.
But it was difficult.
I can imagine. And how old was your son when you met your husband?
My son was 8 when I met my husband.
And,
by then he was like, "Are you Mom, when are you going to start dating again?" What, you need a boyfriend? I'm like, really? When do kids start to try to set their parents up?
How did you introduce it to them, especially to your daughter? Because I mean, she's been through it twice. So how did you introduce it to her? And with you yourself, like how did you feel? Like, okay, is this? I mean, did you just take a chance? Were you sure that it was gonna work? Like,
so I took I had. And within that time, like the first part of it was like me running away from myself so fast that I kept moving so that I wouldn't stay still and have to think about it, which is not a healthy way to process things, because you're really not processing it at all. You're kind of like just keeping busy. So I was in school and I would go out and I would do so much stuff so that I didn't sit still long enough to. And then finally I said, okay, God, I'm doing it my way and it ain't working. So I started praying more, and I was just like reading. The Purpose Driven Life is this book that I always commend because it helped me get through that situation. And so I prayed a lot. I read a lot of books. And of course, taking the kids on that journey with me, them seeing the process of healing, like, oh, okay, she seems to be a little bit better with, having a conversation with him. But for them, for a while, it was a little bit difficult. And I think it was more difficult because of his lack of consistency. They were used to seeing him every day. Now, the fact that they didn't see their my son's dad every day, and him not showing up when he said he would show up, started to become a thing. So I said, God, what do you want me to do? I'm gonna wait and let you show me.
Yeah.
I was 2 years single, celibate, like the whole thing. I was just like, I'm not dating. I don't want to date. I'm just gonna focus on me and the kids. And when those 2 years had passed, me and my sister and one of my friends went out to celebrate my graduation, because I was graduating with my bachelor's degree. And I wasn't looking to meet anybody. I wasn't even interested in meeting anybody. And I met my husband, and he was actually working at the club that we went to. And he was like, I like the way you carry yourself. You were such a classy woman over there. I was watching you, and we just started talking and hanging out. And I allowed him to court me, which was different from what I had done in the past. Like, I meet somebody and we hang out and whatever. But with him, it was more of a process. Like, I've been through this twice already. I'm not trying to. I ain't trying to go
strong woman.
Yeah, I'm like, you got to come correct or not come at all. And it was something different about him than anybody else that I had ever dated in the past. And so I was just like, I told my siblings, I said, if this works with him, it's great. But if it doesn't, I can say that I've met a really great guy, a genuine guy, and I can move on and be okay with that. That's how I knew something was different, because I was never that comfortable within myself to say, hey, if it doesn't work, cool. But if it does, he's a cool guy, he's a cool guy. So it just so happens that it continued to progress, but we would always date outside of my household, of course. And then finally the kids were like, so you go out on dates, when are we going to meet this guy? You guys are pushy little things.
They became the parents, like, your choices have been bad, so let's make the choice for you now.
So I finally introduced them, and right off the bat, like, they loved him and he loved them. And we started to do things together as a family unit. He would take them out. He would have conversations with just them. He would take my daughter out, like almost to court her, like to, so she could see how he was. And they would have like father-daughter day, and I would have, me and my son would hang, and then we would switch, and then we would do things as a group. And they really enjoyed that, getting to know him. And my daughter was like, yeah, I think he's a good guy for you. So I was like, okay, the kids love him. He loves it. He's like, your kids are so respectful and they're beautiful people. And, everything we do, they're so grateful for it. And I was like, okay, this probably is going to work.
But how was the transition from being a single mom, you being the disciplinarian, you just being the sole parent, to having to shift some of their responsibilities to somebody else? How was
that? Was the hard part. That was the hard part, because of the fact that my son's dad and I had a groove, like we had a specific way of how we handled things. It was hard now to incorporate my husband, or my, at the time, when we were still dating, he didn't really say too much. Okay. He didn't have too many opinions. He was just like, I'm here for, in terms of your support if you need me. But when he became my husband, his voice became stronger in terms of, what we would have in our household and things like that. And so it was different, because my son's dad was used to getting off of work, whatever day of the week, and stopping by just to see our son outside at the park or something. And as it became, a more of a family unit, my husband was like, okay, he's going to have to start calling.
We need some
you can't just you can't just show up. Yeah. And so learning as a woman who was single, and just, as a mom, sometimes we try to overcompensate, right? We don't want the kids to think it's us blocking them from their other parent. So we allow the other parent to, okay, oh, he didn't show up yesterday, so he wants to show up today. All right, let's let him. There was no boundaries. Yeah. And my husband, when he came in, boundaries definitely were created.
But I'm sure it was chaotic at first, even for him, because now he had to deal with two other people. You understand that?
Yes.
Coming to his home, and with regards to like the rules, I know you obviously cannot put rules in somebody else's house, but how is that? Because when they go to their dad, I'm sure some stuff was said. Did it ever come back and like chaos in your house, or
So our oftentimes rules. So our biggest issue was that I always felt that his girlfriend at the time, which was the one he cheated on me with, had too much of an opinion. And it was like, this is our son, and these rules were in place before you got here. Yeah. So you kind of just have to get on board for a little while. Yeah. And then once we all can work it out, then let's all work it out. But right now, you just got here. So these are the rules. Let's leave them in place. And that was kind of hard for her to do, because she was like very uncomfortable with the way that things were.
I mean, it must have been so hard for you, because I mean, you had this man, you had the child, you're planning a wedding, and now this woman takes the man, and now she's part of, Like she has no
Yes.
feeling towards your son. It's just like I'm gonna strangle somebody.
Yes. See, you understand me. That's exactly like it was a lot. It was so much. People were like, if you need me, if you need me to come meet you and fight with you, we gonna all fight together.
I mean, I would have been there too.
And I was like, y'all don't know how bad that's up in me. Like every time I
Yeah.
would see her, I'm like, why is she here? Why it felt as if she kept in trying to impose herself on me and almost like rubbing it in because
Yeah.
she did say petty things at times like, oh, I have the ring now and he didn't marry you, but he's gonna marry me.
Okay.
And at one point I said to her, like, you think you got such a great prize. God just blessed me with releasing him from me. And you're going to see all the
Yes.
things that he's done to me is going to happen to you. I'm not wishing it on you because you are also, she was also a single mom. So I told her, I'm not wishing it on you, but there's a song called Same Script, Different Cast with
Yes, I know it.
Whitney Houston. And so I would tell her, it's literally going to be the same script, just a different cast. So you're going to be me in a few years going, oh, wow, she tried to tell me and I didn't want to listen to her.
And
We had
somebody else who will tell her that I've got the ring.
Right. And so at the beginning, it was just tough. It was very tumultuous. Weekends we had to communicate through other people for a little while because it was just too difficult for us to communicate head on.
Yeah.
And anytime she was involved in it, it just became even more
ugly
of a situation. Yeah.
Sure.
So
that's a lot. You've been through a lot.
Yes.
And I thought I was struggling. But so I'm the biological in my marriage because when I got married to my husband, I had a 2-year-old son who is 5 now. And I feel like a lot of times because I was also a single mom at first, and for me, just letting go or just allowing him come in and say, you know what, letting my son know that he's also a parent and he can say yes, and when he says no, and because I had a son, I needed a male figure for him,
right.
but it was just so difficult for me. Like, okay, chap, do it. So it caused a lot of arguments, it caused a lot of resentments and stuff like that. But with you guys, did you guys ever have any of that, like any of those arguments? Did you ever feel like when your husband came to you and said, you know what, I just feel like, blending is so hard, and like, how did it make you feel inside when he came to you with not complaints, but like the struggles that he was facing? Like, how did you deal with that?
There were definitely those times, and I'm glad that I'm speaking to a bio mom because you understand it. Like, it makes you feel like I've been almost you wanna get snappy, like, I've been doing this by myself before you got here and everything was fine. Thank you very much. But I had to like step back, even though at the beginning, like when he would say it, I could feel myself getting defensive. I wouldn't say anything, but I could feel the defenses going up.
I couldn't help myself.
I could feel it going up, and I was like, in my head, who does he think he is? He just got here. And then I'm like looking at him, and he's like, I'm a man, so I understand a male perspective. And even though he's like, you're coming from that nurturing mom perspective because you feel like you need to compensate for the things that his dad is not doing. And that's fine. You can still do that. But I'm just telling you that this needs to be incorporated because he's tiptoeing on that line of boundary.
Yeah.
So at first, like you said, I was just like resistant. Like, I don't know about that one. That seems too much. It seems too extreme.
Yeah.
But then when I thought about it, and I was like, he's coming into a situation where there's already kids, where there's already rules. Where does he fit in? Where does his voice get heard? And the only way that it can be heard as if it's through me. He's not going to my son's dad saying,
Yeah.
you should be doing this and this and that. He's
Yeah.
coming to me saying, these are my concerns.
Yeah.
And so I had to start to respect it because he would come to me about it.
Yeah. Because with us, like, we don't have any with the biological father, he's not in the picture at all, and it's a choice thing. We've obviously tried our best to, communicate and do whatever
Right.
we can, but obviously he has shown no interest, so we've just let it like rest.
Right.
But with your daughter, did it ever come to a point where you had to explain the situation to her about her dad? Did she ever have questions? Did she ask? How did you handle that? Like, how did you handle the questions, and when did they start?
My questions started with my son. Well, he's always known his dad, but my daughter, I've always told her who he was from like when she was small enough to understand pictures of who people were, because I've always had like a picture of he and I together when we did date.
Okay.
And so I would, and what, as she started to get older, even though she saw my son's dad as her dad, she knew that there was someone else. And so, but because he was out of sight, he was out of mind. But when he did finally start to come around, it was kind of like, so how come he doesn't call a lot? How come he doesn't, come around a lot? And how come, and at first I was like, how come this is all falling on me? Like he's the one that's not doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, maybe you are the one that can give him the information in a way that's easier for him to swallow or easier for her to swallow. So I would say to her, I'm not exactly sure why he doesn't call or come by, but he has access to you. I have never, ever stopped him from seeing you, but it's a choice. Sometimes people, they choose other things like in life, they choose, and I had to like make kid analogies. You know how sometimes you can choose to play with this child or choose to play with that one or choose to do this thing or choose to do, he has a choice and he's just making that choice right now. I said, maybe as you get older, I think she was, like I said, when she finally met him, she was 6. So when actually she was 8.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, she was about 7 or 8. And so when she really started to like want to know more and more information, she was old enough for us to have those conversations. And so I was just like, when he calls you, when he finally does call you, you can have that conversation and say, hey, why is it that you only call me every now and then? And stuff like that. But even my son, who went from seeing his dad every day, had the same questions because his dad, he doesn't live in another state. He was living in the same state, but he was choosing the girlfriend at the time. You know how men can be sometimes. They're going through that courting process, so they want to impress them. So it's like, he wasn't coming to see his son like he usually would have. And so he would say, how come dad's not coming to see me? He said he was coming on Saturday and now he's saying he's not. And I said, when he calls, you can ask him. I had to start to stop. At first, I felt responsible for being the answer of all the questions. I'm like,
and then at the same time, you try your best to deliver it in a way where it doesn't look as if you're trying to paint the other person bad.
To be bad, exactly, exactly. And that's the main thing. I think you speaking about the parent in a loving way, but just like you said, having to have that conversation when you feel your child is, number one, old enough, but also at an age where he can handle it. Like, I know that you think this is dad and he has been dad to you for all this, this time, but the person who your biological parent is this person, and, they haven't been around. Well, however, whatever is going to work in your household, whatever.
So how long
But
have you guys
you'll know when it is. Either they'll start asking questions or you'll get this feeling like, okay, we gotta talk about this.
Because with my son, he met my husband when he was 2, and I think it was the second time they met, he already had told him that you're not okay. He didn't say you're not my father, but he said I'm not your son. you know, and it was just like, it was so surprising
Oh, okay.
to me that a 2-year-old could say that, you know, because he
Right.
has never seen or spoken to his father. So how does he then know that he's not,
No, right.
you know, how does
That's
he
true.
know? Because
That's true.
and then my husband and I, we had an argument about that because in my head I was just like, I couldn't believe that at 2 years old he could say that, or
Right.
just know that this person, you know, isn't, or this person doesn't belong here. And we
Right.
struggled with that because like we lived in a whole different in a, let's call it a state. We lived in a whole different state and we had to shift and move in with my husband. And it wasn't just difficult for me, it was difficult
Right.
for my son as well, because now, you know, he's had uncles, but he's never had a
Right.
father, you know, and now
Correct.
it's just like, okay, you know, and then he starts manipulating the situation, you know, he starts
Yes.
blaming every time he gets hurt, who did this? Papa, you know, and he's just like, and then he gets upset because he's blaming him for small things, you know. And it's just, I mean, it's really, it's,
Right. Right.
oh,
It's
Lord,
interesting that kids know how to do that.
dude.
Yes. Kids know how to do that so young. And
Mm,
it's that it's that sense of like, this is my mom,
mm,
right? I already know she's the nurturing, loving mom. She believes me.
mm.
So when you make and so yeah, kids, that's why I always tell parents that I work with, like when you are disciplining a child, you
Mm,
have to do it together, like a united front, so that it appears that you can't infiltrate this. You can't get in here and try to manipulate either one of us,
mm,
because we're going to come to you together with the discipline. And that part was hard for me too as a mom, because I'm used to, if something's going on, I don't think about having to ask anybody else what the proper discipline is. I just say, this is, kids will do that. Kids will manipulate. And my husband was just like, listen, when you're disciplining, when you're coming up with these rules, whatever it is, I would love to be included. And so I was just more aware of it and would say, okay,
mm,
so this particular thing happened. He was not getting great grades in school. How are we going to handle it? So I would first talk to my husband and say, in our household, this is what we're going to do. Then I would talk to his dad. His grades aren't that great. What he also wasn't being consistent in terms of seeing him and spending time with him. He wanted to make his household like the fun house. So there were no rules. So I'm the disciplinarian. He's the fun guy.
mm.
I look like the
The
ruler and
bad
he looks like the
parents.
saint. Yes.
Lord.
And so I had to get used to that. And then when it wasn't until my son's stepmom or bonus mom and I started to have a conversation, like we finally got to a point where we sat down and had a discussion on our quarrels, whatever issues we have with one another. And I always told her, my biggest issue with you is that you overstep. I feel like you want so much input,
Mm,
but this is something that was going on before you got here. And I just wanted you to be respectful to what we already had, and whatever you wanted to give input on, give it to him.
yeah.
Give it to your son, give it to your man. Don't come to me with it. We make the
And
rules.
especially because she was also in the same situation as you, so she knows.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so when we finally sat and had a conversation and was able to say, oh, that's what you didn't like about me, I apologize. She was able to say she recognized the things that she did wrong and how she messed up. And
Mm,
I was able to say, yeah, and I also messed up in these ways, and letting people tell me things about you, and and treating you a certain way just because.
mm.
And so once we forgave each other for that, we were able to move on. She's the parent that I contact when I want to discipline our son.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'll say, this is what he did, and this is what we're doing in our house. So when
Mm,
he comes over there, what are y'all gonna do? And then she'll say, all right, let me talk to him and then I'll call you back. Because me and him in communication,
it's not good.
he's very sarcastic. he could be very hostile if
Mm.
it pertains to money. And so I couldn't talk to him. I knew that any conversation would end up in an argument. And I would be drained of my energy every time I had
Yeah.
a conversation with him. So I needed to find another way to communicate. So she was that source of communication. And she was like, oh, okay, so when he comes over here, this is what's going to happen. And I knew that she would stick to the rule because now we have respect for each other.
And they can understand.
And so it wasn't him going there for the fun house.
Mm.
It was.
Okay, so just a question. So you say you help families. So do you help like blended families, and do you also like talk to stepmoms? Do stepmom come to you with their problems, or how does it work?
So I generally, because I come from the bio mom perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I like working with bio moms. However, of course, we know in this world of, networking with people, whoever connects with you connects with you. Sometimes it's the stepmom,
Yeah.
and they don't even know that I'm not a stepmom because of the perspective I come from, which is just like, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about this kid.
Mm.
And we got to figure out the best way to work it out so that, we can make it work for the kid. A lot of I see a lot on the internet, a lot on Instagram about, bio moms and the bad, like, it's just a horrible kind of like feeling. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
But I think it's
Is
also
that
the
the
same.
perspective?
But I think it's also the same with stepmoms. I think there's a lot of negative things about step parents,
Absolutely.
And I wonder why, because like I think I was having a conversation with somebody I had an interview with yesterday, and I was asking that because people just see these, like step parents who have obviously given up or they've just been so worn out, you know, has these wicked stepmoms or whatever, but they don't see
Yes.
that it's these small little things that build up. It's things that biological parents overlook, Like if I
Yes.
come to you and explain to you that, this made me feel a certain way, and you make it seem as if it's not a big deal. He's just a kid or she's just a child, whatever. It's
Right.
all these build up that a person gets to a point and be like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So like, I'll give you a scenario. I have a friend who is a stepmom, right? And her stepchild is 13 years old.
Hmm.
The problem that they're facing is the fact that the biological parent is never at home. He works long hours. And when he comes home, it's almost as if their family is being divided. So
Hmm.
when the husband come home, they have time for her, the kids, and the husband. And once
Hmm.
let the kids go to sleep, then the father and the son have their own time.
Right.
They have their own time. And
Right.
for her, it's like it's frustrating because all she wants for him to do is bring them together, let them be
Hmm.
a family. And when she voices out how he made her feel during the day or whatever, he should back her up. Like a few months ago, he was Googling how to vanish his mom. So what he means is how to vanish his stepmom. And she's like, I don't feel safe in my own house because why would a
Right.
13-year-old boy Google how to vanish somebody?
Right.
He's not trying to vanish me because he's not trying to vanish his biological mother
His mom.
because
Right.
he loves her to death.
Right.
So he's basically trying to get rid of me,
Right.
For the husband to just come home, shout with no consequence, it's like he'll do it again because he knows, there's nothing more than just you shouldn't do it again, or that's bad for you and whatever. So for her, she's so frustrated and she feels so uncomfortable in her own home. And she's just trying to find like ways to make the husband see, that
Right.
I want you to make me a priority, and I don't know
Absolutely.
how else I can say, or what else I can do for you to see that. So in a
Right.
situation like that, how would you then advise either the mother, the stepmother, or the biological father?
I definitely would tell the father, although I do think it is important that I'm sure he's trying, just like bio moms, right? Like we try to nurture that piece for the kid that the parent is gone. Like, so we're like extra coddle. Oh, extra nurturing,
Yeah.
extra, right?
Mm.
And the other parent is seeing it from a different perspective. They're like, okay, you can give a little bit of that, but when do I get included in this? Because I'm a part
Yeah.
of this too.
Mm.
And so for bio parents, sometimes it's hard to find the balance. We have to learn to find the balance, whether it's dad or mom. There
Mm.
has to be a healthy balance. And although I do think it's still important for dad to spend time with his son because it's a boy, because I'm sure he's going through specific emotions that have to do with his mom not being around and all that stuff, he has to be the one to take the lead to show that although we have our time, it's important that we have time as a family, because
Yeah, but
regardless of whether you like it or not,
mm,
this is our family with stepmom, you, me,
yeah,
and whatever other children there are. We're all a part of this family together.
mm,
And he has to hear her. He, as the bio dad, he has to hear her and be willing to like put aside his own feelings and say, all right,
no.
you're my wife and I want to make you happy too. So I know that it
But
ain't gonna work if
but
I don't listen.
but the surprising thing in this story is the fact that he was actually raised by his mom, who didn't allow the father to be part of the picture. And at 13 years old, the boy then took the decision that he wants to stay with his dad.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you know. So it's almost like the dad is overcompensating, but he's forgetting
Yes.
that, yeah, and he's forgetting that the wife is the one that stays at home and does all these things, and she needs to feel appreciated because right now she's feeling like she's just a domestic worker. Like all I
Right.
do is just clean after you guys. You guys don't need me, you know. I mean,
Right.
you have all your kids under one roof, but you're not considering my feelings. And for
Right.
me, like I just started blending, you know, and I'm still facing problems of my own. And for her to come to me with such, like sometimes I don't know how to advise her because I'm not in that position. You know, I'm the bio, I'm not the step.
Right.
But at least I have my husband who's always willing to just, you know, to share his story and also advise. So
Right.
that's a really good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, she definitely has to have a voice. She has to not just have the voice but be heard. So even if she has she spoken to him about this yet? Because and he's
Countless
just
times. And you
and he's
know,
just
the thing is, they agree when they are together, like as a unit, they agree and be like, okay, yeah, I agree, we should do it. And then when it's time to execute,
yes.
it's just like, you just think it's a bit too harsh, or maybe let's give it some time, you know, or stuff like that. So that's the problem.
She's going to have to give it a time limit. She's going to have to say, listen, if I don't see these things happening by this time, I'm going to put my hands back and
Mm,
I'm going to let you handle. So don't leave nobody home with me because I don't have a say anyway.
yeah.
So you're going to have to figure out how all of this is going to work. I'm going to sit back and let you make the plan and let's see how it works. She has to be able to come to him and say, this is how I feel. This is what's going on. What are we going to do? And him execute it. I have a friend that's also has that situation. She has a stepson who's older, who the dad and him have been together. It's just them two for so long. And then her trying to incorporate her voice. He's looking like, I listen to my dad, not you, right? And
Yeah.
then she's like, but this is my house. So she tried to get on board with dad so that he could say, all right, I'm going to have a conversation with him so that things get better. But just like your friend, it's not important until it's important. And that's what you don't want it to get to that point where the stepmom feels so overwhelmed that she's like, I'm cutting out of here.
Yeah.
You want to try to fix it before it gets to that level. So you have to put your foot down and say, it needs to take place and I need to actively see it by this date. And if I don't see it, then I'm stepping back. I'm going to let you handle anything that has to do with the kids. You handle it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because otherwise she's gonna if she tries to initiate discipline, she's gonna look like the bad guy. then they're going to go to dad and it's going to be smooth over. They
Mm.
have, you can't do it that way. Kids will constantly use that as a manipulation tactic if you do that.
Yeah. These little things. So do you feel okay? So I've been seeing a lot of questions about step parents coming up short, right? Somebody actually sent me a message asking us to give an opinion of why do we feel that step parents feel that they come up short. Do you feel like, I don't know how to put it into question, but the question is, why do step parents feel like they come up short? So do you feel as if they come up short?
Does that mean that they get like the wrong end of the deal? Kind of like they're not getting the recognition they deserve?
Yes.
Yes. Sometimes I do believe that exists. I feel like there are some step parents that go above and beyond, and people don't recognize that. Sometimes I feel that they don't get the recognition because the bio parent may not know just how much they do, right? Because if the relationship is, I deal with my son's dad and only him, I don't talk to his wife, then I don't know what she does. But when I'm able to have a conversation with the two of them, and I hear her say, oh yeah, last week when he had homework, I'm the one who helped him with his homework all week. And I'm looking at dad like, I thought it was you.
Yeah.
I think that's how they start to get like shortchanged, because people don't know to what extent they're helping. Some step parents go way above and beyond, way above and beyond. And I do think that they don't get that recognition, just because if you don't know the backstory, if you don't know someone else's story, then you don't understand what's happening. So it could just be because of lack of information.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much you do for my child, so I don't give you the recognition you deserve. I think it could be that.
And with your husband being a first-time dad and having two children, like how did he hit the ground running? Like, how was it?
With my two, he was great. It was like, at first it was like he never, the one thing I liked was that he didn't try to impress them. He was always genuine, because they could see through that. Kids can see straight through fake. If you trying to do things for them that's not normally you, they can see through it. So he was very genuine with them. He would always, like I said, him and my son, they did a lot of sports stuff together. They would go out, play baseball, basketball, whatever together. And because they knew he was genuine, they accepted it, appreciated it. When he had his two, it was like, he said that he felt like he had the experience because of my two.
Yeah.
He was like, he said, although it's different when you have your own child, I was able to get some of the knowledge of being a parent from being a parent to these two. And I was like, oh, that's good. But yeah, he literally hit the ground running. Once he came in, he didn't overstep or like try to overcompensate or go out and buy them things to make them, like him. He didn't do all that. He was just himself, and that worked.
Oh, we glad there. Yeah, I think those are all the questions that we have for today. But what would let's say somebody comes to you today, and one of your single friends who is a single mom and is thinking of starting or joining a blending family, what would be your advice coming from a bio to another bio parent?
I would say always try to remember to put your kids first, because whenever you start to put your personal feelings in it, and this person is allowed to put their personal feelings in it, it's no longer about the kid. It's about you and your feelings, me and my feelings, this person and their feelings, or ego. People put their ego in it, people put their feelings in it. When they do that, they lose track of the important thing, which is the child. I also think that from the beginning, allowing people to understand that there are boundaries and we all should respect them, whether that's you as a stepmom respecting the bio parent or the bio parent respecting the stepmom and bio dad, however it works. Everybody has to learn to respect each other's boundaries. I think that's important also. And just understanding not to rush it. Like, it's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. You're going to have bumps. You're going to have bruises. You know, like, just go along for the ride. You can't control other people's actions, but you can control your reaction to them. So that's the advice I would give.
Oh, well, that's good advice. Yeah, so thank you so much. I would, however, like for us to have a part 2, hopefully where I could get like a stepmom so that we could do a bio mom, a stepmom, so that we can actually.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna try and find. Well, I already have somebody. Just have to ask them if they'll be okay with almost like a conference on call. But thank you so much. At least now I know whose DM I'll be sliding in when things are heavy for me.
Thank you for interviewing me. I appreciate it.
No,
it's good to talk to another bio mom. I don't often get to talk to bio moms a lot. Yeah. Like sometimes, like I said, in my world, a lot of stepmoms will come to me and I'm like, I'm not a stepmom. They're like, you're not? I'm like, no, I'm a bio. I don't even know what that feels like to be somebody's stepmom at all.
Yeah, I'm also in the same position. And I think the difficult part is, like you mentioned, when your partner comes to you and expresses how they feel, you know. But yes, your situation now is different because you guys have biological children. We don't have any between us. We just have the one child that you're blending with. So we're still in that phase where he still comes and expresses how he really feels, you know, and how blending is hard and how, you know, do this and we should do that. And sometimes it makes you kind of like almost regret your past decisions, you know. It's like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have gotten out of that damn relationship when I had the chance. Right. And stuff like that. So it's actually really good to have a conversation with somebody who knows what it feels like, because now it's always like in a blending family, you always have to put, you know, to put on the other shoe. Like, but you don't know how it feels like. Put yourself in my shoes. So you're always trying to be each other's shoes. Definitely the truth. Definitely. No, but thank you so much. I will send you a link once I've uploaded the video, and I'm gonna put all your information in the description below so that people know where to find you. Yeah, thank you so much for giving me your time. And thank you so much. I look forward to part 2. All right, definitely come.